Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be diving into something today that you guys specifically requested.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, high-functioning depression.
Okay.
You sent over that Kati Morton video, and it's got my brain buzzing.
Yeah.
It's not as straightforward as you might think.
No, not at all. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's one of those terms that kind of gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
But there's a real nuance to it. So
Yeah.
we're talking about dysthymia, a specific diagnosis with criteria that goes way beyond just like having a bad day or two.
Okay, so let's unpack this. From what I gathered from Kati, to be diagnosed with dysthymia, someone needs a depressed mood most of the day, more days than not, for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
That's chronic.
Exactly.
Not just a temporary dip.
The DSM-5 is very clear about that duration.
Right.
It's not just a rough patch, you know.
Yeah.
It's persistent low mood that colors your experience for a significant amount of time.
And this is where the low-grade description Kati uses gets interesting. It's not to minimize the struggle.
Right.
But it highlights how dysthymia differs from, say, a major depressive episode.
Right. It's more of a constant hum of negativity rather than crashing waves of intense sadness.
Okay.
Everything feels harder, but you're often still able to function. Go to work, meet obligations, put on a brave face.
Right.
Which is where the high functioning part comes in.
But as Kati points out, functioning doesn't mean you're not suffering.
Right.
Let's get into those specific symptoms she lists.
Okay.
The first one that jumped out at me was avoiding social situations.
Yeah.
We all need alone time, but this is different, right?
Absolutely.
All
It's
right.
more than just wanting to stay in on a Friday night.
Right.
It's consistent withdrawal canceling plans, even pushing away loved ones,
Wow.
because socializing feels draining or overwhelming.
And then she mentions increased irritability, like everything bugs you, you're snapping at people. I know I've had moments like that, but it's the persistence that makes it a red flag.
Right. It becomes a pattern,
Yeah.
not just a bad day. And coupled with that, there's the constant fatigue Kati describes. Not just physical tiredness, but this mental and emotional exhaustion that makes it hard to get through even basic tasks.
No wonder concentrating becomes a challenge.
Right.
She mentions rereading things without absorbing them, zoning out during movies.
Yeah.
It's like your brain is stuck in low gear.
Exactly. And it's in this state that people often turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms,
Right.
as Kati points out.
Yeah.
Increased alcohol consumption, overeating, excessive screen time,
Oh, yeah.
trying to find any way to numb the discomfort.
Makes sense if you're constantly feeling down, you're going to
Yeah.
seek relief somehow.
Yeah.
But those short-term fixes often just make things worse in the long run.
They do. And to make matters worse, Kati highlights the persistent worry that comes with dysthymia,
Okay.
ruminating on past mistakes, feeling anxious about the future. It's exhausting.
It's like your mind is stuck in a loop of negativity. So for our listener, if any of these ring true for you, you might be thinking, well, I'm still going to work taking care of things.
Right.
Maybe it's not that bad.
And that's the trap
Yeah.
of a high-functioning facade.
Yeah.
You look fine on the outside,
Right.
even to yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
So you minimize the internal struggle. It's so common for people to go years before seeking help.
Kati really emphasizes that in the video.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why that happens. Why would someone struggle silently for so long?
Well, there's the stigma, of course.
Yeah.
Mental health is still something we don't talk about openly enough,
Right.
which leads to shame and a reluctance to seek help.
And I imagine that high-functioning facade plays a role too, right?
Right.
You might feel like you shouldn't be struggling.
Exactly.
Because you're not completely incapacitated. It's
Yeah.
like you're failing at depression somehow.
Exactly. And then there's the lack of awareness.
Yeah.
Many people simply don't know dysthymia exists. If you've been living with this low-grade depression for a long time, it becomes your normal.
Right.
You don't realize there's another way to feel.
That's heartbreaking. But Kani's message is so clear.
Yeah.
Don't suffer in silence. So let's talk about what folks can do if this resonates with them.
Okay.
She's a big advocate for seeking help.
Yeah.
But where do you even start?
Well, the first step is recognizing you're not alone and that what you're feeling is valid.
Okay.
If any of this clicked for you even a little,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth exploring further. You deserve to feel better.
I love that. You deserve to feel better. Full
Yeah.
stop. But how do you get to feeling better?
Right.
What are the practical steps someone can take?
Well, self-diagnosis isn't a substitute for professional evaluation.
Right.
If you're concerned about your mental health, reaching out to a qualified mental health professional is key.
Okay.
They can help determine what's going on and recommend the most appropriate course of action.
So finding the right therapist is step one. Kati specifically mentions talk therapy, which makes sense.
Yes.
It's about having that safe space to process everything.
Exactly. And there are different types of therapy available.
Okay.
So finding one that resonates with you and your needs is important.
Gotcha.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is often recommended for dysthymia.
Okay, I've heard of CBT.
Yeah.
It's about retraining your brain to think more positively, right?
It's more than just slapping a positive spin on things.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those negative thought patterns that contribute to the depressed mood and learning to replace them with more balanced and realistic ones.
Okay, so it's not about pretending everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
But recognizing the challenges.
Exactly.
While also acknowledging your own strength and resilience.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Therapy is a powerful tool, but Kati also mentions the potential role of medication.
Right.
Right?
Right. Is that something our listeners should consider?
For some, medication, especially when combined with therapy, can be helpful for managing the symptoms of dysthymia. But it's crucial to work closely with a qualified medical professional to monitor progress and make any necessary adjustments. It's not a quick fix, and finding the right medication and dosage can take time.
So it's about finding the right combination of approaches.
Yeah.
And being patient with the process.
Absolutely.
It's not about masking the symptoms,
Right.
but addressing the root issues. Kati also mentioned the importance of lifestyle changes.
Right. Absolutely. Things like regular exercise, a healthy diet, and getting enough sleep can significantly impact your overall mood and well-being. Taking care of yourself holistically, both physically and mentally, supports your mental health.
And don't underestimate the power of self-care. Engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation can be incredibly helpful in managing the symptoms of dysthymia.
Absolutely.
Whether it's listening to music, spending time in nature, or anything that helps you recharge, make time for things you enjoy.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just about what you should do, but what genuinely nourishes you. Recovery is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be ups and downs along the way.
Yeah.
But be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress. Those small victories can add up to big changes over time.
Speaking of support, we've talked a lot about the individual's role.
Yeah.
But what about friends and family?
Right.
How can they help someone struggling with dysthymia?
Support systems are crucial.
Yeah.
Friends and family can provide a listening ear, offer encouragement, and help create a supportive and understanding environment. Even if you've never experienced depression yourself.
Right.
Simply being present and validating their feelings can make a world of difference.
It's about showing up, not trying to fix them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And encouraging them to seek professional help if they haven't already. You can even offer to help them find resources or accompany them to appointments if they're comfortable with that.
Practical support.
Yeah.
Love it. Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something Kati emphasized. Addressing those unhealthy coping mechanisms early on.
Yes.
Why is that so crucial?
The longer you rely on them, the more ingrained they become.
Okay.
It's like creating a well-worn path in your brain.
Right.
The more you travel down that path, the easier it becomes to default to those behaviors.
Yeah.
Even when you know they're not serving you. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping mechanisms and break those automatic but harmful responses.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've talked about what dysthymia is, how it differs from major depression, and the impact it can have on your life. We've also talked about the importance of seeking help, finding the right therapist, and exploring different treatment options.
Right.
But what about the deeper why?
Okay.
What actually contributes to this persistent low mood?
Right.
Kati didn't really delve into that in her video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like we've been focusing on the what of dysthymia, but now I'm curious about the why.
Yeah.
What causes this persistent low mood in the first place? Kati didn't really delve into that in her video.
That's a great question. And honestly, it's what researchers are still trying to fully understand.
Okay.
Dysthymia, like many mental health conditions, is often a complex interplay of biological, psychological, and social factors.
Right.
It's rarely one single thing.
Okay, so it's a multifaceted puzzle. Let's break that down a bit. What are some of the biological factors at play?
Well, research suggests that imbalances in certain brain chemicals like serotonin and norepinephrine can play a role in mood regulation.
Okay.
And genetics might also be a factor, as dysthymia tends to run in families.
So if you have a family history of depression, you might be more predisposed to developing dysthymia yourself.
That's the current thinking. But it's important to remember that genes aren't destiny.
Right.
Having a genetic predisposition doesn't mean you're guaranteed to develop dysthymia. It just means you might be more susceptible.
Right, it's one piece of the puzzle, not the whole picture.
Right.
What about those psychological factors? How do our thoughts and experiences contribute to this condition?
Certain personality traits, like pessimism or low self-esteem, can make someone more vulnerable to developing dysthymia.
Mm-hmm.
And those negative thought patterns we talked about earlier, the rumination, the self-criticism, those can fuel feelings of hopelessness and despair.
So it's not just about what happens to us, but also how we interpret and respond to those events.
Right.
Our internal dialogue plays a big role.
Absolutely. And then there are the social factors to consider.
Okay.
Things like chronic stress, trauma, or difficult life circumstances can contribute to the development of dysthymia. These external stressors can chip away at our resilience over time.
Right.
Making us more susceptible to low mood and depression.
It's like life throws punches, and sometimes those punches land harder than others.
Exactly. And for some, social isolation or lack of support can also play a role.
Yeah.
When you're feeling down, it's easy to withdraw from others.
Mm-hmm.
But that isolation can actually make those feelings of loneliness and despair even worse.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It is.
The depression leads to isolation, and the isolation fuels the depression. It makes that support network we talked about even more vital.
It does. Breaking that cycle is crucial, and it often involves a combination of those factors we discussed. Therapy, lifestyle changes, medication if needed, and building a supportive community.
So while the why of dysthymia might be complex, the good news is that there are multiple avenues for addressing it.
Absolutely. With the right treatment and support, it's definitely possible to overcome dysthymia and live a full and fulfilling life.
That's so reassuring to hear. What are some signs that someone is on the road to recovery?
Okay.
What should our listener be looking out for?
One of the first signs is often an improvement in mood.
Okay.
You might start to experience more positive emotions and fewer negative ones.
Right.
It's not just the absence of sadness, but the presence of joy and contentment.
That makes sense. It's about finding the light again, not just dimming the darkness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might also find that you have more energy and motivation to engage in activities you enjoy. Those tasks that felt overwhelming might become more manageable.
It's about reclaiming your life step by step.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And as you heal, you might also notice improvements in your relationships.
Yeah.
You might find it easier to connect with others and build meaningful connections.
Yeah.
Recovery isn't just about feeling better individually.
Mm-hmm.
It's about feeling more connected to the world around you.
It's like everything starts to come back online. Your mood, your energy, your relationships.
And as you continue on this journey of healing, you might even discover new strengths and resilience that you never knew you had.
Wow.
Dysthymia can be a challenging condition.
Yeah.
But it can also be an opportunity for growth and self-discovery.
I love that perspective. It's not about erasing the experience, but learning and growing from it.
It's about finding a new normal one that includes joy, connection, and resilience.
Well, that feels like a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into high-functioning depression.
Yeah.
We've explored the symptoms, the impact, the potential causes, and the many pathways to recovery. But as always, we've just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn and explore about this complex condition. Remember, you can continue your own research and self-discovery journey. There are many valuable resources available to help you better understand dysthymia and find the support you need.
And if you are struggling, please reach out to a mental health professional or a trusted friend or family member. You don't have to go through this alone. There is hope for recovery.
You have the power within you to heal and create a brighter future for yourself. It starts with taking that first step and reaching out for help.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time with another fascinating topic. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.